Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Bus. On this one, we're going to be looking at just a bit of simple maintenance just for the beginners out there that haven't really been into the scene or anything. So today's objective is we're just going to replace the rear uni joint in here. You can hear that. Plenty of movement in there. It's only really just starting to move, but I prefer to get onto it before it's really flogged out. And then the center bearing is also pretty much on its way out, or not on its way out, it's out. So we'll be doing both those, and that's pretty much everything that's really involved in your drive shaft, because if you can change one uni joint, you can change any of the three that's in the old Hiluxes. So anyways, let's drop the tail shaft.
So I'll only be dropping half of the tail shaft because it's only the back half and the center bearing that I need to look at. So there's only 4 bolts for that. Quickly whack them out of the way, and then we just got to whack the tail shaft for it to drop off. So I'm just using a pry bar, and this is pretty much what not to do. You are meant to catch it on the way down.
Well, it's on the ground now. So here's the play in the drive shaft. In the uni joint rather, you can hear that. And then this side is, I can't even twist it, but binding up pretty hard. So I'm glad that we pulled just the set back half off. The front one's still good. The one that's right behind the gearbox is good. If we look in here, there's actually just a ring just here. See it there and there. So this, you have to push these off each of the uni joints because they retain the cups.
So to get those off, I do recommend using either 2 screwdrivers or just a screwdriver and a hammer and just tap one side of it out. But they come out pretty easily with a little bit of pressure.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. The rings are out of there.
So now we have to get the uni joint cups out. So I thought I'd just get the old man into this just so that way he can show us how he does it. And it's pretty straightforward. So we're just using the edges of the vise and then hammering the drive shaft. So we're trying to hit it where it's not going to bend anything. And if you look up there, you can actually see that the cup's getting knocked out with each hit. And then we flip it over and just do the other side exactly the same way. So have the edges of the other part of the uni joint sitting on the edges of the jaws of the vise, and then the cup knocks straight out. So there you go. The cup is still caught up a little bit, but I'm just going to use the screwdriver and get in where the locking ring would go, and then just push it in and flex it out. We did the opposite side the exact same way. So obviously we just had this little knuckle, so we had to put it on the sides of the uni joint like where we had it previously. And unfortunately, one of the cups wouldn't move, so I'm actually just using a punch and the uni joint to actually break out the other cup, and then we can fully remove this uni joint and start to put the new one in. Before you start assembling, I do recommend putting some grease on the roller bearings, just on the inside of there. Even though they do have grease nipples and we can put the grease on later, I do recommend this. It just makes it a bit easier for it all to slip together. Now, I just sit the uni joint all roughly together in the drive shaft, and then I will just put the cups in either side and roughly line them up in the vise, so that way I can then use the vise to wind the cups in with the pressure. But we keep winding it on, and every little while I am checking for the movement, so I'll wind it in a little bit, just make sure it wants to move. Nothing's binding up as it's going together. This is a really important step. Otherwise, it will end up like the opposite side that I could not even move when I pulled it out of the car. So super easy. If you've got a vise, just use the cups and then just wind it on like that. The cups do need to be pushed in a little bit further, so I'm just going to use the old existing ones and then put it all back in the vise just to get that little bit more pressure. And then straight after that, we can put the locking clips in. So all we're going to do for those is simply line them up and then just tap them around with a hammer. And if you do need, you can always grab a screwdriver just to tap right on the back on the center to get it to flick over the cup. I accidentally put too much preload on the uni joints, so even though we've got the locking rings and everything on, we can actually still tap it the exact same way we uninstalled it, just to knock those cups back just a little bit and get the uni joint moving freely once again. Now to push on the other side of the knuckle. So we're just going to use the vise again, crimp that up, and then when we need to get that little bit extra of the cups to go in, we can just use the old existing cups and then push them in exactly the same as the other one. Here is one side all back together, and then compared to the other side, which is still all bound up. So this one still needs to be done. So I'll go off and do that while I've actually got Adam here doing the center bearing. So now that the center bearing's got to come off, I'm just going to hold the drive shaft for him so that way he can undo that nut.
Oh, it's really easy. I was expecting it to be way harder.
I didn't smash that edge in to lock it properly. No, I'm probably unwound.
Oh, that's supposed to be smashed in, is it?
Now, there's only two 14mm bolts holding it in. So once they're straight out, then the rest of the drive shaft will actually drop down on an angle, and then the carrier bearing will just slip off. It might need a bit of a finesse with a hammer, but it should come off relatively easy. There's me eating me lunch with me filthy hands, just straight up smashing oil in that mouth.
I think they're just awful cars, purchased by awful people.
Unfortunately, when we tried to remove the center bearing, the actual rubber slipped straight off the actual bearing. So the bearing actually looked good, but the rubber in between was absolutely flogged. You could hear it anywhere you were driving. You could be 100 k's and you could still hear the rubber squeaking underneath the car. So now we've just got to smack off that bearing. So after a bit of finesse with a punch and a hammer, it will just slip straight off. Nicely done. Now time for the new carrier bearing. It's just as simple as slipping on the right way, so that way the hooks are to the rear side, so they hook up on the back side of the cross member there. Next, we slip on the flange for the back half of the tail shaft to get bolted to. And then we've just got to put the nut in. So we have actually put the 14mm bolts in just so that way it holds up there nice and straight, and then we'll whack those out. They are not in too tight. Then we'll whack those out and then put them back in.
You would normally replace this nut, but today, we're not going to.
Now we have to torque up the nut that is on the flange and the center bearing. So the thing is with this, it is 73 Newton meters to torque it up correctly to Toyota specifications, but the flange kind of just presses onto the back of the bearing, and there's no real wiggle room. It just has to go tight against the back. So I'm not going to worry about the torque spec. Now we've got to punch the nut into that gap so that way it stays locked even though it rotates. Just on a side note, I wanted to show you guys the other side uni joint, which is flogged out.
Rusty that is. Look at it.
Lovely.
Look at them. They're fucking, half of them, some of them broke them in half.
Stuck to it.
Yeah, look at that, all the rust. And then this side's way worse than the other side. But
That's how it's supposed to be, right?
yeah, except with grease and not rusty. And the rollers are meant to sit in the cap. I've just tried to put this back up, and the slip joint had slipped out in the process of doing the uni joints. So if we actually look up there, we can see that the uni joints aren't actually in phase with each other currently. They're currently slightly off. So this has to come out and rotate just one tooth this way, like that. And now they are in phase. Exactly in phase. Let's double check down here. And what in phase means is essentially once it's all sitting up exactly where it sits, the angle on this side should be the same as up the very top on the opposite side, and then this one here should be the same of the bottom side of the other end. So we'll just do our final tighten up now. The thing to keep in mind with it being in phase is also that if it's not in phase, it will vibrate lots, and if it's really, really badly out of phase, there's the potential for the drive shaft to explode and blow itself apart from all the vibration. That's when you see tail shafts getting spit out from under cars type of stuff. If you're not changing your uni joints and stuff regularly as well, that'll do it. All these things have an impact. Maintenance, always do maintenance. It's more important than doing cool shit. Always more important to do maintenance over cool shit. And the carry bearing's pretty simple. It's not really too hard of center bearing, sorry. It's not too hard to manage. It's a pretty simple one, as long as you know what you're doing.
The last thing we've got to do is actually grease up the uni joints, and I still do also grease up the slip joint.
So there we go, there is the tail shaft all installed with the new center bearing and 2 new uni joints because they were pretty flogged out, and I think it's also because the extra strain from the diff lock. They weren't quite right, they were pretty tight. I may have set them up so they were binding up a little bit last time and they weren't quite right, but this time I've ensured that they're correct. And hopefully now with the rear locker we shouldn't be flogging out our unis too quick now that they're all set up the way they should be, because it's a little bit too much fun to break traction in this now. But yeah, anyways, I hope you like the quick maintenance video just for you beginners out there that haven't done any type of maintenance on your car, or have just done a service and you're looking to actually do some driveline maintenance. But there we go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one when we'll be on the tracks.
Hung.
Good leg.